You're now listening to the Sacred Soul Podcast. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about empowerment. And I'm really excited about this topic today because I feel like it's very talked about in society, this idea that we should empower ourselves and liberate ourselves from conformity and really moving beyond the traditions and expectations of other people. And I thought to myself, what does it really mean to make a choice that is actually empowered? And how do we recognize where we are stripped from that sense of empowerment? And so for me, I first think about moments in my life where I felt disempowered. And I actually have a lot of previous, recent moments where I felt disempowered. And a lot of that has to do typically with our reputation, our identity, or our sexuality, our truth, anything that is tied with our essence and that makes us us in the external way, because we live from the inside out, right? Everything that we show to the world is a projection of a truth that we host internally. And so in order to show up as an empowered person, we have to really get to know who we are, what that truth is, and not be afraid to exude that. And so for a lot of us, there is this feeling of needing to sometimes hinder ourselves because of the structure of what success means to people and what does it mean to be empowered. And I feel like it's very devil energy. If you think about the tarot, I always love to talk about the devil card because especially with empowerment, there's this idea with the devil card that you are so in your own essence and in that exuding of your truth that you detach from needing to abide by the expectations and societal structures and really breaking down those walls and showing up just as you are in your fullness and your wholeness without having to compromise that or the piece of that. And so for me, my most recent experience with having to be disempowered from my own will, right? I chose to disempower myself because I wanted to conform. Is just a couple years ago, I started doing tarot readings. I've been doing it for about 4 years. And when I started reading tarot, I didn't want to tell anybody really, especially my in-laws, because they're very Christian and I am not Christian. And there is the belief that tarot cards are evil and it's very taboo. And when I would go to my mother-in-law's house for Christmas, Thanksgiving, stuff like that, I would hide my tarot cards from her and also from anybody else in my family who I thought could potentially judge me for my desire to read tarot and to be intuitive and to have this sort of spiritual awakening that I was going through. And I would all of the time hide my tarot cards and never tell people what I was doing. It almost felt safer to be I'm doing drugs. I'm not reading tarot cards in my bedroom. It felt safer to be I'm doing heroin, right? Because people are so judgmental. And I feel like that feeling of structure and judgment really does hinder us from being able to just be who we are without that fear of what people think. So to me, empowerment is doing or saying anything that rejects the outside structure of projection of judgment and shame onto the thing that you're wanting to express. So for a lot of people, empowerment looks different, right? It's nuanced because everybody is different. Everyone's unique. Everyone has a different upbringing and different desires. And so if you look at, let's say, for example, a stripper, there are a lot of women who are strippers and that feels empowering to them, right? And to some other people that might feel not empowering. And that's why it's a matter of you trying to find yourself and the intention of what makes you feel good and letting go of giving a fuck about what people think about us. Because the more that we care about making, this person happy and that person comfortable, and I want this person to like me, I want this person to respect me, then we've placed so much of our power into the hands of everybody else around us. And now we're kind of like a puppet on a string that is being worked through by other people's expectations. And so devil card energy is where we take that power back. This is why it's called empowerment. I host my power. I am the control of my power and how that exudes outward. Most of the time, we recognize this sense of empowerment that really does come first from the experience of rejection and people vilifying our actions and our choices. And a lot of times, we see this with people who are gay. and wanting to come out as queer, there is this feeling of being demonized and vilified by family, society, people's opinions and criticisms and judgments, and then we internalize that. And so we see that with lots of different people. I see that with myself as a medium, with my tarot cards and talking to the dead. I've had so many moments where people come to me and say, "Hi, what do you do for work?" And I typically will say, "Oh, I work in grief therapy," or "I'm a grief supporter." I will never say that I'm a medium or I talk to dead people for a living, because we always get those kind of funny stares and like people get kind of spooked out by it and just don't have that sense of understanding or like open-mindedness and awareness to accept a different point of view or a different perspective. And so I think that with empowerment, it's an invitation for other people to be open-minded, because it allows the invitation of open-mindedness and awareness and expansion. People who are empowered are literally like trailblazers. They are people that pave a new path for other people that are in the same realm of work or energy to then empower themselves. And it's like we are trickling down this sense of like confidence and like self-assurance and sense of self-security for everybody else around us. It's a healing domino effect, so to speak. And I feel like even going back to like people who are strippers or that do sex work, to some people that is empowering because it exudes a certain truth that is true for that person, right? And being empowered is not for anybody else to understand. It's for you to be in the likeness of your soul energy. And people don't have to understand that. We are a work of art as humans. And I used to say all the time, like, "Oh, I'm a work in progress, like I'm healing." And one time Spirit said, "No, you are not a work in progress, you are a work of art." And so we have to look at ourselves this way, especially when it comes to empowerment and embodying our independency and our genuinity. There is this feeling of stripping ourselves to be bare, to be naked, to be raw and real. And to remember that, like, if you go and look at an art museum, there's all kinds of like weird paintings that we don't really understand, but it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. There's a sense of appreciation for it being authentic. And so if we can continue to show up authentic, I don't think the desire we have as humans is to even be understood. I think it's to belong as we are. It's to feel that sense of belonging and acceptance as we are, without needing to be understood, but rather being appreciated for being in our truth, being authentic. That energy is felt. So I have also had moments where I have hindered my own sense of authenticity from trauma. I feel like a lot of people who are sexually assaulted or abused or neglected and have lots of childhood trauma or body physical trauma, there will be lots of moments where you feel disempowered because that has been taken from you in those experiences. And then we move forward in life and it feels shameful, or we feel guilty, or we feel slutty or dirty to be empowered during sex and intimacy, or to be empowered in relationships, to be empowered wearing a fucking crop top, right? There's so many things that take our power from us, and we are called in those spaces of healing to release the guilt and shame. Release that fear of rejection, release that fear of judgment, release that fear of feeling like we are dirty or we are not good enough or we are tainted. And remember that we are still beautiful works of art, and we still have soul energy, we still have potential, we still have our worth, and nobody can take our worth from us because we are beings of God, of the universe. We are literally stardust and this physical embodiment of love. And we can hold ourselves close and then exude that outwardly and then feel empowered in that space. Empowerment doesn't have to be like this big fucking grand awakening or grand expression. We can literally be empowered through our thoughts, through a perspective shift, through looking at myself in the mirror and seeing that I am beautiful when I've been always told that I wasn't, or if I have sexual assault and I can't look at my body, or when I get in the shower and I wash my breasts, it's triggering, right? Or during intimacy, when I'm touched, it's triggering. I've had so many experiences myself with sexual assault as a child, and then other moments as well throughout my life where that was taken from me, right? Those moments of sacredness. And there is a lot of shame when it comes to intimacy and sex. And so a lot of the ways that has shown up for me where I felt disempowered are moments when I first breastfed my daughter, and I got really triggered from feeling the sensation of like my nipple being touched. That was like really enraging for me. And this is what sort of triggered my healing when it comes to my physical body and my sexual assault past and that trauma, and really just remembering that I, in this body, am the owner. I, in this body, am the keeper. I am the safe space. My body should always feel safe to me. And I remember this one time, after all of these years of my healing through my sexual assault experiences, I was on a live on TikTok with this person, and we were talking about spiritual stuff and healing, and I had opened up about my sexual assault, and I started to kind of talk about it a little bit, and I felt so fucking empowered, like being able to share my testimony of healing, because it took me so long to be able to get to the space of feeling comfortable to talk about my body in a way that wasn't shameful, how I have been able to heal myself. She said, oh, no, don't talk about that. You don't have to talk about that right now. And she like hushed me and didn't want me to talk about my story, didn't want me to talk about my assault and how I've healed from it. And I immediately felt shame. I immediately felt guilt. I immediately felt dirty, because in those moments where we try to empower ourselves, I feel like people get uncomfortable and they press that shame onto us, like, oh, we don't talk about that. I think she was trying to make me comfortable and to let me know that I was safe in this space, but it's just the ways, and like, I feel like we have to let people share their story. And that was a disempowering moment for me. And I had to like really sit back and process that. And I think sorry, my dog is snoring all the fucking time. Me talking about it even now, and I even talked about it like moments after that with my friends and on my own individual live. And I talked about my assault and the story of the healing. That was where I re-empowered myself. And I took that power back and I said, you know what? I am going to share my story. And if it's uncomfortable for some people, it's not meant to be. That's not the intention. The intention with empowerment and sharing your story is to enlighten. It's to inspire. It's to reignite power in other people, because you are that mirror for them. And so there have been a lot of instances where I'm sure that you guys too have disempowered yourself, Chloe, because you wanted to make other people comfortable. And so the advice here is to remember that if you just take your time and you serve the spirit and you serve where your heart is longing to either speak a certain truth or embody a certain truth, this is the opportunity, is that we always have moments throughout the day even where we can empower ourselves in little ways that awaken something deeper within us, so that we feel comfortable to show up more authentic, to show up more real. And this is why empowerment is like empowerment. It's like, it's the moment. It's because we're not always empowered. I think more than anything, we're not empowered. I think most of the time we are beings of duality. We are beings of like wanting to compromise and make peace with other people. We're trying to share the space with our friends, our family, society, and we're all trying to belong. And so a lot of us are also trying to make everybody else comfortable. And so I've even had conversations with people and friends where they're being very vulnerable with me through their words. And then they'll say, I'm sorry, was that too much? It's like, no, it's not too much. You've disempowered yourself. Because after a moment of vulnerability, when you give somebody, oh, was that too much? You're giving them the opportunity to strip you from your power. Don't give anybody the power. You are never too much in your vulnerability. You are never too much in your expression of soul energy. It's never too much. Sometimes it's too much for us because it's sort of like the sun card in the tarot, where it's like super exposed. When we are empowered, this is why it feels so grand, is because we are literally like butt-ass naked in front of society, energetically speaking, where you don't give a shit. It's like, look at me, this is who I am, in my imperfection, in my flaw, in my gift, in my talent, in my truth. And we can just be that thing without caring. That's what true empowerment is. It's not doing something to try to be empowered and then still feeling guilt and shame. True empowerment is when you are totally detached from that guilt and shame. And that is a process, right? I think there are levels to empowerment. And I think that there's like a ladder that we climb to get up to that space. And it's like on that way up there, we have to have grace, because we're stripping ourselves of all the conformity that we've ever grown up with, all the permission that we seek to be who we are, all the validation that we think that we need to attach to ourselves as a harness to let us get up to the higher realms, right? Like, we don't need any of that. We don't need any of that. And so we are guided now through this word of empowerment, to remember that it's a process of undoing, a process of getting to know yourself. It's like I'm literally going deeper into who I am, and then learning that it's okay and it's safe to express that. The reason that empowerment is not easy is because, especially if you're young and you live in a household with like your family, your parents, and like authority figures, like if you wanted to tell your parents that you were gay, or you wanted to, like get a tattoo and express yourself through your aesthetic or through your vision, or if you want to be like a photographer and your parents want you to be a doctor, it's like there's all this feeling of structure that we don't really feel safe to express our truth. And so in those instances, it is harder to be empowered. It's harder to make choices that feel for you, because when we make choices that are empowered, there is a high chance that we will not have any support. And there's a high chance that we will. It's duality. I think we're supposed to have both. It's there for a lesson, because you're teaching the people who don't support you, you're teaching them the lesson of empowerment, and you're embodying something that they don't yet have. And this is why the projection of resistance is being poured onto you from those people who don't support you. I think more than anything, we want to belong. We want to feel accepted. We want to feel understood. And if we can't fulfill that for ourselves through our own sense of empowered choices and empowered forward movement, we will never, ever find that with anybody else. Because people only care about themselves anyways. It's sort of like, when you go into like the mall or like a restaurant and you think everybody's staring at you, they're not. Everybody is thinking that everybody's staring at them. Everybody, every single time, wherever you're at, is worrying about themselves and thinking that everybody's judging them. We are all worried and having a panic attack at the same time. So we have to realize that we don't have to be somebody specific or have this facade of like needing to show up good and like receive approval for that. We can just show up as who we are and let it be effortless. When you become empowered and start to make empowered choices, you will see how easy it becomes to do normal shit that we kind of have to filter. Like, it's easy to give your opinion to somebody in a circle of a conversation where maybe it's about something like politics or like something heavy. It's easier to give your opinion. It's easier for you to tell a story or to share a hard experience. It's easier for you to wear whatever the fuck you want, even if everybody else is dressed down and you come in a fucking ball gown. Like, we can just do whatever we want. It's effortless, but it's almost like popping a pimple, being empowered. It's like there's first that like, oh, this is so hard. This is going to be painful. I'm going to feel vulnerable. Like there's fear around like what people are going to think. And then once it's released, it's like, oh, that wasn't that bad. It's like popping a pimple or like waxing your leg hair. It's just like that moment of like, okay, you just got to rip the Band-Aid off. This is what empowerment feels like. And because a lot of people struggle with empowerment too, because we have a lot of trauma. We have a lot of layers to move through, a lot of guilt, shame, all these like internal resistances. And so I think the best thing that we can do is move our body. This is why I love dance so much, is because it makes us feel empowered, because it shows our body that we can move in a different way. But even in dance class, still, like I'll go to dance class and I'll feel like, oh my God, I need to do it good. Or how do I look in the mirror? Who's watching me? Instead of just, so when I am like that in dance class, I'm not really empowered. But I have had moments, and it's just moments. Like I can count on my hand, and I've been dancing since I was 5. I can count on my hand the moments where I've actually been in class and actually genuinely been empowered, when I did not give a shit about what I looked like, what anyone thought of me. I was just dancing for the feeling of it. I was dancing for myself. It's when you serve yourself. Empowerment is service of the soul. And that's it. And when we serve our spirit, when we serve our soul, we serve everybody else around us, because you become a light, an open door of opportunities for them to see the truth about themselves, because we are meant to inspire people. Everything that we do is meant to inspire. Okay, so I just pulled some tarot cards to look at the relationship that you guys have with empowerment, and how funny that the Devil card came out. Like I literally told you, empowerment is devil energy. This is the embodiment of unchaining ourselves and freedom from conformity. This is what empowerment means. freedom from the structure of conformity that keeps us hidden and constantly running back to our patterns and our cyclical ways of existing that don't allow us to feel that sense of purity and holiness. If you want to talk about holiness, there's no better way to be holy, to be pure, than to be exactly who the fuck you are with the Queen of Wands. Queen of Wands is very Leo energy. We're going into the month of August, but whenever you're watching this, it's timeless, doesn't matter. It's just the embodiment of that Leo energy where we are asking ourselves to show the fuck up. I feel like a lot of us are sick and tired of our own shit. We're tired of running back. We're tired of hiding who we are. A lot of you, especially if you look closely at the Queen of Wands, well, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little black cat. There's this feeling of like us embracing our taboo, us embracing our witch. And it's not just witchy, right? It's like there are many things that could be taboo. Being a stripper, being in an open relationship, being gay, being a medium, right? There are many things that we are going through in our own personal life that we are tired of fucking hiding it because it's who we are and it's becoming more of a burden, more draining to continue to show up fake than it is to kind of like just say, fuck it. I don't care what people think about me. And maybe we do. Again, it's the ladder of climbing up to that space of empowerment, but it's about calming your nervous system and reminding yourself every step of the way that you are supported and you can give that to yourself. We don't need anybody else to approve of our art. You are the art. We are the art. If I'm gonna sit here and paint a picture or write like a love letter to myself, do you think I'm gonna go and ask some random bitch if it's good enough? No, because it's not up to them to decide what is meaningful to me. It is up to us to decide what's meaningful to us. And we get to make that choice. We get to take our power back with this Knight of Swords energy. It's quick decisions. It's getting clear on our intention of how it is that we want to show up, how it is that we want to speak our truth, and remembering to not do this with bitterness, but with inspiration, with love for yourself. Because sometimes we want to prove ourselves and we don't want to be in that energy because that's not empowered energy. It's still giving a fuck when you're doing it to prove to somebody, right? It's like kind of like me. I've had a lot of experiences, you guys, where I've embodied all of this negative energy, but I've had an experience like when I first came out as a medium to my mother-in-law. She's very Christian. We got into an argument and she kind of told me that I was talking to demons, and it was like this whole experience of just feeling totally like I didn't belong and I wasn't accepted and I was judged, judgment energy. And so I had to go through a transformation of self, like a dark night of the soul, if you will, with all these cards here. And I remember having so many fucking moments where I still wanted to prove my goodness to her. And like any moment where I would have a meditation where I might have seen Archangel Michael, or like if I had a moment with Mother Mary or Jesus through meditation and my own spiritual connection, I felt like I always wanted to like share that with her and tell her like, oh, like I had a meditation and I saw Jesus. Like, and I had to sit back and think to myself, like, why am I saying this to her? Why am I always wanting to overshare and overcompensate with these experiences of like holiness? And I'm doing it to make her like me more or to make her accept my mediumship abilities. And it's like I'm trying to prove that I'm good and my gift is good. And that still comes from a space of disempowerment because I'm still chained to her opinion of needing to like approve of me, right? And so we have to completely transform from the need and the desire to seek approval and to seek understanding. If I worry too much about what my mother-in-law thinks about me or anybody, then I will never get the opportunity to love and understand myself. And we're cool now, like we are totally fine. I think she's come to a better space of understanding, but I have also come to the space of not fucking caring. I don't care who understands my world of things. I don't care who understands my art. And I also don't care who likes my art. It goes both ways. I don't need the approval of anybody. And this is devil energy. The devil, if you look at the archetype and the story of the devil, he didn't give a shit about what God thinks about him because he is duality, right? He is the darker side of the mirroring of God. And so are we. Not saying that we're like the devil, but it's this essence of like, these are two very needed facets. The judgment card can very much represent God essence. Paired with the devil, we are literally here to experience both ends of the spectrum, where we show up in our holiness and we feel that sense of like we are uplifted by society's approval. And this other side of it that's even more empowering and deep with the devil energy, where we detach from that need to be approved and we can just exist in our art. There's something so fucking holy about being right in the center of this, right? And letting go of like needing to revert back to our past patterns, needing to hide ourselves and who we are. I hope this helped you. I would really love to know your experiences with empowerment, and if you've even had any experiences where you felt like you could show up empowered. And just remember that it's a process and that we can move slowly through this. And I think the more that we love ourselves and we focus on what is it that I want to do today? What is it that I want to wear today? And I suggest too, like if you're working on empowerment and showing up in your own truth, start with your outfits, especially as girls. If you're going out to the club or to dinner or out with your friends, don't ask what the vibe is. Don't ask them what they're wearing, because then you're going to decide and choose outfits that are in alignment with their outfits. Unless it's like, you're doing a cute matching set or whatever with each other. I would say wear whatever the fuck you want without needing to know the vibe, without needing to know what your friends are wearing. You can show up different, and that is totally okay. That is your authentic truth. Do what you want to do, wear what you want to wear, eat what you want to eat. Why do we have to match everybody all the time? We don't, okay? So I hope this helped you. I hope it made sense. I always say that at the end. And I would love to hear your experiences. So thank you guys so much. I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you next week.